So we're going to start with the collards, and one of the things that we love to get is local cured bacon, and this happens to have a beautiful hickory smoke on it. The farmer's market that we go to will sell slab bacon, but they also sell pieces, and this is great for this type of application. In the pan, which is already warming, is just a little bit of olive oil. The reason I do that is it just starts the rendering process a little quicker. We're going to take the bacon, chop it up fine, put it in the pan and let it start rendering. Then we're going to rough chop some onion, throw in some garlic, and let that start just mellowing out. And then we'll move on to cleaning the collards. So typically what I like to do is just make sure I have a nice sharp chef's knife. And just to give you an example, just nice small pieces like this, and then just small chop. Nothing fancy, just make sure you get it in there. And you can see that starts cooking straight away. Okay, so let's get the onion going. As you've seen, the bacon is in the pan. It's rendering nicely. Easiest way to do an onion, I don't find that I cry with it, is just make sure you take the tops and the bottoms off. I know there's different schools of thought about that. Leave the bottom on, chill it, whatever. I find this just the easiest way for me. Since we're doing a rough chop, just do about 1/4 inch slices. Do about 3. So it's in thirds, you can see there. And then you just want to do nice little, again, 1/4 inch, and it makes them come out in these nice little pieces, just the way you'd want them at the very end of your product. When I get to the end, I just rough chop it. Put that to 1/2 onion down. I use a full onion in my collards. I like the flavor of it. Specifically, I like to use the dahlia. I like the sweetness of it. They're not harsh. They render nicely along with the bacon. And then we're going to throw a little bit of garlic in there. Let me just give that a stir. Getting the little skins off the garlic's pretty simple. Chef's knife. Give it a nice little whack, and they typically just pop right out. I like to take the little end off of it. No sense in having that in your food. Again, just give it a smack, and they pop right off. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, just a nice rough chop. I don't like getting full bites of garlic when I make my collards, and I want it to be pretty evenly spread throughout. Because I don't like the garlic whole, we'll take a little bit of kosher salt, throw that on top of there, chop it right in, get it all mixed in there. And then what we're going to end up with, believe it or not, is a little paste. You just take the knife and you just drag it. And this is a repetitive process here. You get it going, the salt helps break that down, and what was a pretty solid product will eventually start liquefying and allow it to turn into a paste. You can kind of see that process starting here. Try not to drag the sharp blade across your workspace. This way, this will blend in a lot nicer to your dishes. I do it in my spaghetti sauce, I do it in soups. It just, to me, is better than biting into a chunk of garlic, unless that's what your recipe or your personal preference calls for. All right. And that's everything that's going into the base. Next up, cleaning the collards. So these are collards. A lot of people go, aren't those things that are bitter and you throw vinegar on them? To me, collards, especially when you get them fresh this time of year, can be very sweet, very savory, and it depends on how you cook them, so that's what we're going to go through today. The most important thing is cleaning them. They're grown in sandy soil, so the first thing I do is actually take the veins out and get them ready, and then I put them in a sink of cold water to soak. So let me show you how to take the veins out. Come on over. To make it a little easier, just take that whole end off. Make a nice little pile, and you can see as you pick them up, they kind of have this natural fold, which makes it really easy for us. Using your chef's knife, what you want to do is get the majority of that vein out. Simply drag it, toss it, and you're done. You can see they tear nice and gently, and I just make a nice pile of them. I'll take this pile once I'm done, I'll put it in the sink, I'll let that water allow the sand, if there is any on it, to sink to the bottom. I'll leave them in there about 5 minutes. I'll dry them well, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to start adding them to the bacon and onion. As you can see, the collards have been soaking in water. The easiest method really, and you want that sand, dirt, anything that's on them to be left behind, is not to scoop up the water with the vegetable. Kind of lift them up and allow that water to drain off. Anything that's been left in the bottom of the sink, you don't want to grab it into the vegetables that are now clean. All right, they're clean, all the stems are out, and we're ready to get them into the pan. One of the easiest ways to do this is just a quick roll. And then I'm sure you've heard this term before. We were gonna chiffonade them. Puts it in a nice, thin, almost pasta-like roll. And then you can transfer them to the pan and just kind of let them unfurl. And we're gonna do that with the entire batch of greens. And we're gonna give it a little stir, get some of that lard from the bacon over all the greens as you put them in, so they're nicely coated. What's gonna be our friend here are two things. One is either vegetable broth, which is what we're using, or chicken broth, whatever you prefer, and an acid. The acid in this case is white wine. So this goes by feel. I have a recipe that we can provide you so that you can kind of get a better idea of the quantities that you'll need, but it's by feel of putting equal amounts of both in, letting those cook down, doing it again, and it's a repetitious process until the greens are tender. Collards are a very tough leaf, and it takes time, it takes acid to help break it down, and a little salt as well. So we'll go through that, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of the greens in here and we'll be back. As you can see, the bacon and the oil and the onions, the garlic, I've added just a little bit of salt, have all started mixing together nicely. Now what we're going to do is add an eye amount of broth, same thing with the white wine. Then I'm going to cover it, let it cook down, and I'm just gonna keep doing that process till the greens get to the consistency and tenderness that I want, and that I get the right amount of flavoring in there that I'm looking for.